Annual report.
I actually had a couple of quiet days before Christmas that I worked on it, and then I came in and had a couple of quiet days after, so.
So your grandkids were doing right? Okay.
Right, so I took 4 days off when they were here, and then worked some, and we had a good happy medium.
Do we have Mark?
Oh, wow.
Do we know if we have Mark already?
We have him.
He's not gonna make
Oh, so he's not going to.
it. Yeah, he's gonna call us, but he's not gonna.
We've had in-laws.
For 3 weeks.
Kids,
We're good to go.
but that little machine, that your machine kept getting
Welcome to our Logan City Council meeting for January 3rd. Our opening ceremony will be by yours truly, so. So I didn't write a whole book about the beginning of a year, but I did want to welcome you to a hot out of the oven year 2023. And as we know, we have many projects going on in our city this year, and I want to thank everyone who is involved in their many details. It will be very exciting to cut ribbons later this year for the new library, for the Center Plaza, and much more. Thank you to our mayor and city departments for their leadership as we continue to evolve as a city and improve our infrastructure and services. I believe our citizens from Logan and beyond will enjoy our new facilities and gathering places for many generations to come. I also want to thank our city council members for trusting me to chair our meetings this year. I'm honored to accept this responsibility and grow as a public servant with this experience. I promise I will do many things right, and also please help me correct anything that may be wrong. While there may be some uncertainties on the horizon, this year may turn out to be one full of opportunities. And I look forward to serving our community, working together and improving when possible or needed. Thank you. So if you want to please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up in our agenda is the acceptance of the minutes and approval of the agenda for tonight.
I so move. And I'll second it.
It's being moved and seconded. Everybody in agreement?
No comments?
Call for the vote.
Any other comments?
Nope. Nope.
All right, so
All in favor?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody against or any nays?
We're good.
Thank you. Our regular meetings for 2023 will be on the first and the third Tuesdays at 5:30. Our next meeting will be January 17th. And now is the time from anybody in the public who wishes to comment on any item not on the agenda for tonight. If you'd like to comment on any issue or any item, please come up to the mic, state your name, your place of residence, and it'll take no more than 3 minutes.
You're leaping to the chance.
Don't talk them into it.
All right. continue with our agenda. Next in our agenda, we have some reports from the mayor and staff.
That's right. The first thing we have on the agenda is what's become an annual update from the Logan City School District. We appreciate Superintendent Schofield being with us tonight, and we'd like to turn the time over to him for that report, and then I'll follow with a State of the City address. So you'll have lots of beginning of the year updates.
Thank you, Mary, and thank you, City Council. I appreciate the chance to come and visit with you all just briefly. I know you have full agendas pretty consistently, so this is an opportunity I appreciate just to give you an update on some of the things that are going on in the school district, and specifically as they relate to partnerships that we currently have in place with the district and the state. We're very fortunate, as I talked to some of my colleagues across the state who work in bigger districts and are trying to manage issues across multiple municipalities. There's some unique challenges that come with that. And we're very fortunate to be able to focus on a single community and strengthen that community is through our work as a school district. So just a little bit of information on where we are right now. Our current enrollment is 5,424 students. As you know, we have 2 preschools, our 6 elementaries, our 1 middle school and high school. Right now, 45% of our students are non-Caucasian, and 54% of our students come from backgrounds of poverty. So we do have quite a bit of ethnic diversity, economic diversity in our district. In fact, we have a number of families who bring their children to our district specifically because of that diversity. We have one family who we work with where they have shared with me they went to register at another school in the valley, and they asked, they're from South Asian country, and they asked when they arrived, so what's the ethnic diversity like here at your school? And the response they got was, well, you'll be a great addition to our diversity, which was, we don't really have it, but we'd love to have you here. And they chose to come to Logan so their students could be part of a diverse community with students and families from a variety of backgrounds. So that's something that we're very proud of, and it's something that we're excited about, and we think reflects one of the really positive things about the Logan community. Our mission as a district is to ensure that all students leave our schools ready to create a positive future for themselves and their communities. You can imagine students that come to us with that variety of backgrounds and with the variety of educational experiences that brings need a lot of support in different ways. They have a variety of needs, and of course our teachers and our principals really strive to address those, whether these are students who have grown up in Logan City School District or whether they are refugee students who have just arrived this year and are now learning to manage U.S. society and deal with the snow and start coming to school. And the snow is a challenge for all of us sometimes. But with all of those differences in needs, these are just some celebrations. Last year, out of the graduating class of 342 students at Logan High, there were 358 scholarships that were awarded for a total of more than $2 million to our graduating seniors. We had a graduation rate of 89.9% of our students, which is impressive considering how many of our high school students come to us not having any high school experience prior to coming to Logan High. So they're learning English, they're learning a new culture, and they are learning the academic skills they need to earn a high school diploma. So that really is phenomenal. Last year, our Health Occupation Services of America students took 3rd place in the national competition. These are all students who are preparing to go into the medical field when they graduate from high school and go study that in college. We had our 10th presidential scholar since 2003. For those who don't know, every state generally receives 2 presidential scholars each year. And these students receive basically a full ride scholarship to any university in the country they want to go to. Since 2003, 1/3 of Utah's presidential scholars have come from Logan High, which is a reflection of course, our students and the support of their families and the work that our teachers do to support those students while they're there. So we just keep looking forward, and they're all on the wall there in the lobby. If you want to go look at the wall of fame, you can see them. This year, we're thrilled Adams Elementary was recognized as a National Blue Ribbon School. There are only 2 schools in Cache Valley that have received their recognition, Adams Elementary and Lewiston Elementary. So we're thrilled. We're having a year-long celebration with Principal Ware and the staff at Adams. Mount Logan Middle School is in their 17th year as a Utah School to Watch, which is a state designation that they receive for the work that they do in teaming and providing unique experiences for students. One of our teachers at Mount Logan, Ryan Mueller, was selected as Utah History Teacher of the Year. So we've been excited to recognize him. And this is our first year of having our World Language Academy at Hillcrest Elementary. You may be aware we had 2 dual language immersion programs in the district previously, one at Bridger Elementary and one at Hillcrest. As we spent a number of years working with patrons and with parents and staff on how we could strengthen those programs, we decided to consolidate those into a single school, which allows the school to focus more on the mission of helping students develop academic knowledge and foreign language or second language skills, but it also makes it easy for us to provide transportation services. So where previously we had the DLI programs in 2 separate schools, and families were responsible for transporting their children, we now provide busing to the school. So families from any area in the city can participate in the dual language programs, and we'll provide transportation to get them up there. So we've been able to increase access, which has grown the program. Our kindergarten classes, which are feeder for next year, are filled and they have waiting lists. We have a longer waiting list for Spanish than we do for Portuguese, but both languages are filled, and we're providing that opportunity for parents. So we're really excited to see the success that program has been moving forward. Facility-wise, of course, you're aware of Ellis Elementary and the work that we were able to do to get that beautiful new building up and running. You're probably aware that we have entered into a partnership with some other entities where we have part ownership of the the USU Forestry Camp that's up in Logan Canyon by Tony Grove, and we're in the process of turning that into an outdoor learning center where students will be able to go and have experiential learning activities with the rivers, going on the trails, and really doing a lot of science and hands-on learning activities in that area. Just last month, we opened our refurbished Family Resource Center, which is the house just to the west of Wilson Elementary, and that is now set up as a resource center for our migrant or homeless populations. It is not a homeless services center, but for our students and their families who are experiencing homelessness, they're able to go there. We have facilities for them to do their laundry. We will have some shower facilities over the next couple months. We get those set up. They can heat up some food there while our staff are helping them access services through the food pantry, brag, et cetera, and helping them manage the school system. So really, it's a location where they can go to receive support services, and we can tie them in to other services that are in the community that can be of longer-term benefit for them. So we're really excited to have that working. We do partner with the Cash Humanitarian Center. They use some of our portables at Mount Logan Middle School, and that's just a partnership that we have with them where they're able to provide services for our community as well. You know, as I reported to you last time, I believe we have food pantries in all of our schools where students can go to get emergency food items for themselves to make sure whether they haven't been able to eat that day or they need food to get through the weekend. And we do all of those in partnership with the Cash Food Pantry. And finally, one of the big facility things you're all aware of is our partnership with the city and the management of the rec center. We've had that partnership now for decades, a very long time, and it's been a very positive partnership both for the city and the district. It's allowed us to have a facility that is large, has multiple uses, and as we talk to other coaches, sometimes from other valleys, they wish, and other schools, they wish they had some of the facilities that we do in terms of the number of gyms, and the number of possibilities that are there. Over time, the use of the rec center continues to evolve. The state continues to approve new sports for students to participate in, and every new sport that gets approved and puts in place requires additional space for teams to practice in. The usage by the community continues to evolve as well. So we've been working over the last several months with Mayor Daines with Russ Akina and the Parks and Rec staff on how we can gradually transition the rec center to a full ownership by the school district, and doing so in a way that recognizes that there are still community usage needs that need to be addressed, and how we balance those needs with the needs of the district and of our students. So we have started those conversations. They've been extremely positive, and I appreciate both the creativity and flexibility of Mayor Daines and Russ as we've had these conversations, because there always seems to be an additional question that comes up. And we meet, we think we've got something figured out, and we start moving down that path, and either a staff member or a patron brings up another question. So, well, let's go back and let's talk about that. And I've appreciated the openness of everybody from the Logan City staff in helping us have those conversations and helping us make sure that we don't lose sight of why the partnership was originally put in place and the benefits that were provided to both entities through having that partnership. And as the needs evolve, that partnership continues to evolve as well. So I look forward to ongoing conversations as we keep getting that figured out. A couple things, current initiatives. One of our big things we're doing here this year is the implementation of student wellness rooms. One of the things that we saw as a result of the pandemic was the impact of student emotional well-being on their learning. And this wasn't new. It's not like it didn't exist before, but the pandemic highlighted the importance of student emotional well-being in their learning. So as we've worked with some other districts in the state that have implemented these as well, we made the decision to use some of our federal ESSER money from the COVID relief funds to put these in every school. And the idea is this is a place where students can go to manage their own emotional self-dysregulation. You know, a lot of student behavior or misbehavior is created when a student's emotional status gets out of control. You know, their anger, their frustration, their embarrassment, you know, whatever, gets to a point where it starts to influence their behavior. And if we can get better at helping students manage their emotions, then a lot of those behaviors you don't even have. Which preserves the learning environment for all students and also helps those individual students keep being successful. So in each of the schools, we've trained staff on how to use these rooms. These are places where students can go when they are agitated, when they are starting to sense that emotional dysregulation, can go get some help in managing their emotions and getting back to class. There are very tight constraints on how long a student can be there, what they're allowed to do while they're in there. So it's not just, well, I don't want to be in math, so I'm going to go take a nap for an hour.
What?
We don't allow that. But we do have a very tightly structured framework that says, look, if this is a need that you have, let's make sure we address the need, and let's get you back in class where you can be successful and you can keep learning what you need to learn. What we've seen in many of our, especially elementary classrooms, is our teachers have been able, with the funding we provided, to take some of the concepts that we teach in the wellness room, and they've now created, you know, wellness notes, calming corners, et cetera, in their own classrooms. And when you're in there, you'll see during an activity, you may have a student that is starting to get stressed, and the student will walk over to the calming corner, they'll sit down, we have some silly putty they play with for a minute, we have some 4x4 breathing diagrams where they do some calming breaths, and a couple minutes later they go back to their desk and they jump back into work. So we're teaching students how to manage their emotions so when they do start to get stressed, they know how to calm themselves down and get back to doing the work that we want them to be doing in class. So we're seeing that that's decreasing the number of students who are having behavioral outbursts, which again preserves the learning environment for everyone and helps them stay focused on what they need to do. So we're excited to see how that's moving forward and how it's been implemented. And then the reason we do all those things, why we put in things like wellness rooms, why we have the partnerships we do, is so we get days like this. What we do the week of graduation, we take all of the graduating seniors, it's actually the day of graduation rehearsal, and we put them in buses and they go to the elementary school that they attended. And they go walk through the hallways. And if they didn't attend the school, it's the school that they live in the neighborhood, so often they have siblings there. And the elementary kids line the hallways, and our seniors walk through the elementary school that they went to, giving these kids high fives and getting applauded and celebrating. Then they would take them to Mount Logan, and they all walk through the middle school. And it's an amazing experience. So if you like, I'll make sure that you all know the date that we have it next year, so you can watch it.
That'd be nice.
But to see students interact with their first grade teacher who they haven't seen for 10 years plus, and to be able to say thank you. I'm sorry, this is one of the days I get really excited about, because it helps all of our students recognize the value of being part of the Logan community. It's not just about I got my diploma or I took some classes or whatever. It's I'm part of a community. And again, that's the value of being in a community like ours, the size that we are, the focus that we're able to have. So those are some things that we have going on right now as a district, some of the things that we've been able to accomplish that our teachers and principals are doing, and things that we're excited to move forward with. And I appreciate, again, the support that we receive from you all as city leaders in the partnerships that we have, and considering how we make sure as a city and a district we're providing the community that our patrons want to be in. So thank you. I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you have.
First of all, I'd like to say that was very inspiring. I felt you had some emotional feelings during that, but I think this is a great idea, what you've done. But I do have two questions. I've understood nationally we have a teacher shortage difficulty. What is your situation with regard to teacher retention?
We have a couple of different things. Number one, the benefit of being close to the university is we get lots of people who do their student teaching with us. So we're able to bring them in to fill positions as they become available. The challenge with being close to the university is you get a lot of people who aren't here long term. So our biggest challenge with teacher retention is having people whose long-term plan involves staying in the community. But if their spouse gets a job and takes them elsewhere, they of course go. We haven't been able to convince them to stay while their spouse goes someplace. We keep trying, but we just keep failing. So that's one part of the teacher retention piece. The other part is just the overall shortage. We have about 25% of our staff who have non-traditional licenses. Generally, that means teaching is not their first career choice. They come to us later in their career. And they bring some fantastic skills and perspectives, but there's a different process of getting them up to speed sometimes with the work that we want to have them do in school. So we do feel the teacher shortage. Logan and Cash have been fortunate because of our proximity to the university to not experience that as seriously some other universities have, or some other districts have. Some of the large districts in Salt Lake, for example, just talking about special education positions, started the year, I think, 20 to 30 positions empty in special education. So we're very fortunate we don't have that same challenge. Our biggest challenge with employees is our classified staff, our teachers' assistants, our classroom aides, those people who help provide all of the supplemental services for students that are generally part-time positions. We have the same challenges filling part-time positions as most businesses in the Valley do right now.
The second question is, nationally, obviously, we've heard of and seen or experienced the violence that has occurred on certain campuses. It's tragic, especially for any child. I mean, it just breaks your heart. So what has Logan District done to help protect, in the security of the architecture, the observation, lockdown, whatever? What are you doing?
Yeah, so all of our schools have single entry point systems set up. So all exterior doors locked during the day except for one at the main entrance, and then we've installed secure vestibules at each of our schools. So no one can enter the school unless the office staff buzz them in. So we had some of our schools already had vestibules that were in place, and we just had to put some locking software in. Other schools, like Adams, did not have a working vestibule that could accomplish that, so we had to build out a storefront on the school to be able to do that. But we've done that at all of our schools in order to have greater control over who enters the building, so we know who's coming in, and we don't have people coming in at random points of access. In addition to that, we do a lot of drills and a lot of training, both with Logan City Police Department and with the Sheriff's Department. We have common tools now for communicating with law enforcement and first responders. It's an app we use called Duress, and it allows any staff member to initiate an alert if there's an emergency, and it allows law enforcement and first responders access to our building maps. They can see where the emergency is, so they're able to respond in a more targeted manner and more quickly. So we're very grateful to our partnership with the police department, particularly in the work that we've been able to do with them in getting that set up. There was another piece. Our next step with building security is, if the legislature provides the one-time funds for building security that they've been discussing, is that we will use those funds to put locking sensors on all of the exterior doors in the building. Currently, the doors all lock. But one of the really sad things from the Uvalde tragedy was they also had that same system, but a door accidentally was left ajar. We don't currently have a system that will tell us which doors are accidentally left ajar, and that happens all the time. I mean, most of us have had an experience. We've walked through a doorway expecting the door to secure behind us, and it doesn't latch. So what we need to do is put sensors on all of our exterior doors so we can always tell, is the building actually secure? And then the secure vestibule and the single entry will make a bigger difference. And then the final thing that we're doing is working to create school environments where we're catching students who might be distressed and might view that a school could eventually become a target. And we're creating environments where the school doesn't become a target in their mind. Creating the environment where they feel connected, connected to their peers, connected to their teachers, connected to the school. And when we do that, and you look at school shootings across the country, you're able to decrease the likelihood that the school becomes a target, because the school is a place where they have positive connections as opposed to negative connections. So if we're able to do those things, continue to secure the exterior of the building, increase our ability to monitor the security of the building, and create more positive connections between students and the schools, I feel like those are the main things that we can do to promote school security.
Thank you.
I have a question. So what's the status of the Old Hillcrest School and completing that project up there? And then do you anticipate needing to bond for additional construction down the road for the school district? I know Mount Logan Middle School is a little bit ancient these days.
Yeah, it's got great bones, but it could do with a facelift. So the Old Hillcrest is currently being used as a temporary district office while we finish doing some renovations with the HVAC system in the main district office over there on Logan West Center. So we hope to have that done and us moved out of the Old Hillcrest by June. The main thing is it's just slow getting construction work done right now. But it takes some time. So our plan is to be out of the Old Hillcrest by June, and then we'll start the plans for demolition. We would like to have it demolished and the land leveled back out before snow falls. We don't think we're going to be able to get sod done before school starts. But the goal is we get it demolished, get it leveled, so next spring we're able to get it sodded, and the Hillcrest community has their field space back finally after all the work from their patients there. So that's the plan with the existing Hillcrest. In terms of future construction projects, long term we are probably going to need to bond again. That's a few years out. All of our facilities are in good working shape right now. We have some unreinforced masonry work we have to do at Adams and along the north wall of Wilson in the old 3rd and 5th grade wing. Those, aside from that, all of our buildings are in very good condition. They're all seismically sound. We don't have any lead and water issues or some of those items that have come up in the past. So really, facilities are in a great place. We do want to expand the early childhood center preschool so we can bring our special ed and our general ed preschool populations together in a single building. We can expand those services. We do want to do an upgrade to Mount Logan, both with facilities and also our parking and drop-off. There's some things we need to do to make that a more attractive place, a better place for students to go during lunch. Yeah, we don't have a lot of recreational space for students outdoors at the middle school. So there are some things we can do with reconfiguring the parking lot and student drop-off and the bus lanes to make that a little more attractive and better working. So those are a few years out, but we will, for the large projects, we will need to bond. There are some things we can do with some municipal building authority bonds, but again, those are small enough amounts that we wouldn't be able to do a school with current pricing. The elementary school is right around 13, 15 million right now. So that's a little bit beyond where we think a bond that doesn't require voter approval really is appropriate. We feel like that still needs voters to sign off on it.
So Frank, I was going to ask, when Bridger had the Spanish component of the dual immersion or single dual immersion program, it seemed to provide a little more stabilization to their population. Have you seen it change back to being the least stable population in terms of the elementary schools, or is it becoming, because you've reconfigured some of the boundaries, a more stable population over time?
We've seen a little bit of stabilization. There's still a high mobility rate in the Bridger community. Part of that is some of the changes from the boundary shifts. We won't see those really take effect for another year or two because you still have people who have made permit requests to stay in the school that they were previously attending. So not all of those shifts have been realized yet. Our hope is that it will start to stabilize a little bit more as time passes. But we expect that due to the housing realities of the neighborhood, that Bridger will continue to be one of the highest mobility schools in the district. Ellis is also pretty high mobility. They're a little behind Bridger, but they're still quite high. And that's the type of housing and just the family dynamics of where families are. They're in that housing until jobs change or they graduate from school or something like that. What we're seeing is we see great participation from those students and their parents. We see a little bit less participation perhaps in PTA because families are working multiple jobs. It's a little bit harder to go volunteer in the classroom. But those are things that we'll continue to watch and kind of see what we need to do to support them.
Okay, and my second question, I know that you bought the Municipal back.
We did.
What are you going to do with it?
We are going through the process right now. We've been working with some contractors to identify what is involved in having it be a working pool. We've gotten a lot of requests from our community to have a place for our swim team to practice consistently without having to deal with the inconsistencies of scheduling someone else. So that's one of the big things that we're trying to figure out right now. So we've got staff in there regularly reviewing pipes, say, okay, what's the next thing that would need to be fixed? What do we think are the most cost-effective solutions for doing that and working through it? Right now, we believe that we'll still be able to turn that into a working pool. It will be something that we'll be able to use for our swim team. And we want to then, we're looking at different structures for opening it up for parent access, for student access, for doing youth swim classes, et cetera, when it's available. We don't currently plan on having it be something that the PE classes will participate in.
Okay.
Partially, surprisingly so, I didn't know this, but anytime I've spoken to someone my age or older who participated in swimming at Mount Logan, the general consensus is don't you dare make kids swimming. That was a horrible experience. So, okay, we will not push it. We've got plenty of other things we can do for PE. But that's what we're working toward right now.
Okay.
And we want it to be something that contributes to the positive feel about that community and the school when people drive by.
Don't blame you there. I know that I took my 45-year-old son to Mom and Tot swimming there, so it shows how old I am. But I also wanted to say thank you to Frank. I know that he's been very active in your school board, and we appreciate him coming, being here as well. So Frank Stewart.
Thank you.
Not
Yes.
Frank Schofield.
In our circles, we call him Buck.
Really?
We're both Frank, and our both last names both start with S, so we started to run out of options. So
Oh, okay.
he goes by Buck.
Buck?
And
That's a new one.
high school nickname.
Really? Okay, well, you didn't ever share that when I worked with you at the university. Come on. It would have been a whole different experience.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. We appreciate that update. And with that, I will now start into my address. So good evening. I'm delighted to present a State of the City message. I just completed my 5th year as mayor. Our council members have served well, and we have accomplished a great deal in that time. Tonight, I would like to especially recognize and thank them for their support and their thoughtful comments and input, as well as thank our outstanding executive team and all the employees at the city. Running the city is truly a team effort. We have a well-seasoned group who work collaboratively, and we continue to invest in our city and make decisions with long-term benefits for our citizens. We have a shared vision. We communicate well, work hard, and get things done. I'd like to share some highlights from each area in the city. As you know, one of the City Council's primary responsibilities is approving the annual budget. Starting next month, the Finance Director and I begin working with department heads on that all-important budget process for the fiscal year that begins July 1, with a plan to hold budget workshops with the council members in May and move through the approval process in June, and we welcome their input. After the stresses of COVID, 2022 was a banner year for the city in many ways. As always, our first priority is fiscal responsibility. In partnership with the council, we always balance our budget, keep significant reserves in all critical funds in case of an emergency, and invest appropriately in capital and infrastructure projects. The Finance Department serves all departments citywide. They keep us on track with annual budgets, quarterly financial statements, audits, helping develop long-term plans for capital improvements, infrastructure investments, and in building and maintaining reserves. They again received a certificate of achievement, which is, and I quote, the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting for excellence in preparing the city's annual comprehensive financial report, demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate its financial story, close quote. We take our stewardship of taxpayer dollars, city revenues, and expenditures very seriously. Transparency is extremely important, and we are always happy to answer questions about how city funds are used. We also appreciate our IT department, which is part of finance. We continue to right-size our city operations given the significant growth in Logan City and Cache County. 3 years ago, our fire and EMS services were challenged to respond to the volume of calls generated outside of Logan City, where we'd historically served, and we moved ahead with a planned separation. This year, the number of fire and EMS calls in the Logan service area, which includes North Logan, Providence, and River Heights, has increased 10% and will likely equal the total number of calls countywide before we separated. Because the area we serve is not nearly so spread out, we are keeping up with our current staffing levels, but that was clearly a good decision given our growth. The county has increased their capacity as well, and we back each other up as needed. The other service we are in the process of right-sizing is garbage collection. For the past 60 years, Logan has provided countywide garbage collection and landfill service, the only city in the entire state to do that. Because of growth, it was becoming difficult to manage current and future garbage collection as more of our collection service was outside Logan City versus inside Logan. We were dispatching trucks all over the county on multiple days, stretching our capacity and increasing our cost and risk. We were becoming a large for-profit garbage business rather than serving Logan citizens, and that was not our intent. Change is difficult, and there was initial angst among other cities, but we have continued to assist them through the process as they determine the best path forward for them individually or collectively. We will shortly sign an MOU with the county to formalize our promise to continue to provide garbage collection until June 2025, if needed, as they transition to other collection options. Logan will continue to operate the transfer station and green waste site at the Environmental Center and own and operate the North Valley landfill for the use of all citizens countywide. Another long-standing tradition needs reevaluation. As you just heard from Superintendent Schofield in his report on the school district, that after 46 years of a great partnership at the rec center between the city and school district, needs and conditions have changed, and we are mutually discussing a phased plan that will eventually allow the school district, which owns the property underneath the rec center, to utilize the entire facility for their growing needs. The city is discussing how to provide future recreation services for its citizens, particularly our youth. This year will be, as Ernesto mentioned, we will be completing multiple large capital projects which will benefit our community and downtown for years to come. The Center Block Plaza, which included $2,360,000 of private donations, including a lead gift of $1 million from the Lobb Family Foundation, to which they recently added another $160,000. The library, which garnered $1.5 million in donations, with a lead gift of $1 million from the Hanson Sisters Foundation, who also added $50,000 to their contribution recently. We are so fortunate to have generous citizens who have been successful and want to give back to their community, as well as foundations that recognize the value of these projects and are willing to help. A huge thank you to those folks from the council members and myself. Other major projects to be completed in 2023 include a new fire station across the street from the old station, which was made possible by $10 million in funds from the American Rescue Plan Act of 2022, and a significant $11 million investment in transportation infrastructure from the city with the construction of the new bridge over the Logan River at 100 West and 600 South. That project required years of preparation from our Public Works Department, from road design to acquiring property and strips of right-of-way from multiple owners. In the middle of construction last spring, the concrete plant in Utah had equipment issues and was mostly closed for several months, meaning many projects statewide couldn't get concrete, which impacted construction schedules. That delay also contributed to a delay in constructing the planned pedestrian underpass under Main Street at 600 South. As you may recall, UDOT granted the city $4.1 million for the project, but since it is under Main Street, UDOT opted to design, bid, and manage the underpass, and they have bumped that project to 2024. All the connecting pathways will be finished by summer, awaiting completion of the underpass, which will provide a great link for our trail system and enhance active transportation options. In the environmental department, we appreciate all the employees who drive garbage trucks and work at the landfill. In addition to facilitating the future change in garbage collection, they hosted the ribbon cutting of a new wastewater treatment plant and began the conditioning phase. This important project will greatly improve the quality of our water resources and protect the environment. They also completed closure of the south-facing part of the Logan landfill. This will help reduce the impact of the landfill on the environment and is an important step in the proper closure and post-closure management of the landfill. The environmental department has also expanded the size of the North Valley landfill leachate treatment pond, which will allow better management of runoff from the open face of the new landfill. They have also completed phase 1 of the new compost facility, allowing us to divert more green waste from the landfill, mix solids from the new wastewater treatment plant, and produce nutrient-rich compost that can be used in agriculture and landscaping. The forestry department works for both environmental and light and power, and also puts up our holiday decor on Main Street and Center Street, as well as managing many, many trees citywide for us. By way of an update on the new library, I think we've all watched with excitement to see the new library take shape on 300 North and Main Street. And we expect an early fall opening. By building a 3-story library, it will allow for both more parking and expanded plaza space. The library director and staff have put tremendous energy into the multitude of decisions required for this significant new facility that will be a wonderful community center. In addition, they're switching to a new software cataloging and circulation system that will be debuting this month. The new software will provide better access to our online catalog with easier searching capabilities. This final change in our software concludes our updates, which began with the implementation of security tags in over 150,000 items. They will have several self-checkout stations and a mobile app to make it even easier for patrons when the new library opens. Our Economic Development Director continues to work as a team with other city departments on business growth and ongoing redevelopment, including Costco, along with the new road and utility infrastructure, which will benefit a wide variety of businesses in that area. The director also assisted Campbell Scientific, which announced a $40 million expansion that will create 268 new jobs over 10 years, and Frulact, producing fruit fillings for yogurt, which announced a $75 million expansion with 131 new jobs over 15 years, both providing opportunities for our children to have good-paying jobs if they want to stay in Cache Valley. This also enhances our tax base, allowing us to keep taxes low. He also helps with our team efforts to revitalize downtown, including the beautiful Center Street and the new Center Block Plaza, which is coming this summer. Our public safety employees do an outstanding job for our citizens. I mentioned our fire and EMS department earlier and their increasing number of calls. Last year's total calls were 5,336, and as of December 27th, they had already reached 5,668 incidents, likely a new record, even counting previous countywide calls. They also had a record number of 911 transports and inter-facility transfers. The new Central Fire Station under construction will position them to continue their outstanding service for many years to come. They have worked hard to prepare plans and make decisions on that building in addition to their regular services. They have increased employee training to further build on their professionalism and have applied for and received grants to enhance funding for mental health services for first responders, for extrication equipment and EMS training and equipment. They respond to many difficult incidents nearly every day, some of which have an impact on their mental health and well-being, hence the programs to make sure our employees get help as needed. Just before Christmas, Fire and EMS had an unprecedented set of events in a 36-hour period, including 3 significant and difficult structure fires. Multiple personnel worked extra shift hours to cover medical calls during these events, including mutual aid partners that assisted from Wellsville, Hiram, Smithfield, and Cache County for both the fires and medical incidents. We appreciate their help and stand ready to provide the same assistance to them as needed. Our police department has been a leader in adopting the ABLE program, or Active Bystander for Law Enforcement, and will be helping train other officers statewide. The program teaches officers to be proactive in stepping in to de-escalate a situation and tapping out another officer by saying, "Let me handle this," if a stressful situation necessitates an opportunity for them to cool down. In the patrol division, they have been concentrating on getting their younger officers trained with the ARRIVE program, which is Advanced Roadside Impaired Driving Enforcement. That training gives them the tools to identify impaired drivers and get them off the road for the safety of our citizens. And this year increased DUI arrests by 20%, from 200 in 2021 to 241 in 2022. They have also recertified 19 officers for the Crisis Intervention Team, which specifically trains them to assist individuals who are experiencing psychological episodes. More will be trained in late January. The council members, myself, and department leadership review all use of force incidents monthly to make sure they are appropriate and to learn and improve response techniques as needed. The police participate in the Cash-Rich Drug Task Force, and during 2022 investigated over 475 cases, seizing over 85 pounds of marijuana, 3.5 pounds of methamphetamine, 5 pounds of hallucinogenic mushrooms, and 137 illegally possessed firearms. The detectives investigated numerous vehicle thefts and residential and vehicle burglaries, many of which were committed by juveniles repeating offenses. Using good investigative work, detectives were able to solve most of the thefts and in some incidents recover stolen property. Many of these were crimes of opportunity where keys were left in vehicles or homes were left unlocked, so please lock your homes and cars. Our 911 dispatch team serves the entire valley and continues to prepare for upgrading radio services for first responders in the valley and for transitioning to next generation 911 services. They help coordinate all calls for public safety personnel countywide with calm professionalism. The Parks and Recreation Department has a wide variety of responsibilities, from the 53-acre cemetery, for which a new master plan is underway, to the 162-acre golf course, which also serves as a managed wetland area. Due to increased golf revenue, the staff was able to address some needed capital improvements, including a new pump house and pump system, and to replace a section of cart path. During 2022, Parks struggled to find enough part-time employees to fully staff their needs for summer mowing and maintenance, but still managed to keep our much-loved parks and well-used trails in good shape, complete the 1700 South Park landscaping, and install new restrooms at Trapper Park. They are using a RAPS grant to pay for the engineering design of a new bridge to cross the river at Trapper Park, so we can access the 47-acre conservation easement the city purchased with grant funds along the Logan River. The bridge and trail will have to wait for funding, but it is on our long-term plan. This summer, we did have to close the swimming pool for a couple of unanticipated days because we were short the required number of lifeguards, but our lifeguards worked hard and did a great job. The Parks Department also provides after-school programs for 445 students at 6 elementary schools and was recently awarded a 3-year grant for $1,170,000 to continue to fund after-school programs. It is a great opportunity for those children and their working parents for the kids to have recreation activities as well as homework help. As mentioned previously, the department will be rethinking how to provide recreation programs as we transition over time from the rec center facility. Parks will also be in charge of programming and maintaining the new Center Block Plaza, which is essentially an urban park with a splash pad, stage for concerts, and wintertime ice skating. They also collaborated with community development on a new micromobility ordinance to better manage e-bikes and other devices on city trails and sidewalks. They are working with an engineering firm on construction drawings for the Woodruff Neighborhood Park and the Foothill Nature Park, and are applying for grant funding, which would allow us to begin construction on those projects, which will need to take place in phases because of cost. Public Works is another department with a broad range of responsibilities. They too struggled in 2022 with staffing for seasonal and also full-time employees in some departments. During that time, we truly appreciated those employees who were willing to work long overtime hours if there were leaks or problems which needed immediate attention, and we're pleased to be back to full staffing. However, with hard work and long hours, Public Works managed to keep up with deadlines, development reviews, construction demands, maintenance practices, etc. They implemented a new asset management software to better track city infrastructure and maintenance schedules, and coordinated the development and construction of needed roads and a sewer trunk line for the new developments around Blue Springs, FedEx, and Costco in the 10th North, 10th West area on a very tight timeline. That infrastructure will be a great long-term benefit for the citizens and businesses in that area. In specific departments under Public Works, the Street Stormwater Division completed the new bridge at 100 West, which I mentioned earlier, and will complete the new road on the south this spring to fully open that new section of road. They also covered about 50 lane miles with chip and seal, which extends pavement life, saving significant funds for the long term. They have increased sidewalk safety by purchasing new equipment to better fix sections uplifted sidewalk by jacking them up rather than tearing them out. And they have constructed additional new sidewalks to help with pedestrian walkability and safety. They coordinated with UDOT for new signals on traffic signals on 10th West at both 1800 and 2500 North, and continue to work on improving our east-west access for transportation. With 10th North now widened and improved from 6th to 10th West, the next priority on 10th North will be a light at the 200 West intersection, then eventually moving to the east side of Main to improve 10th North all the way to 200 East. We continue to negotiate with the railroad for an agreement which would solve the current impasse and allow us to use the traffic signal at 1400 North and 600 West, but also to allow us to improve other intersections on 600 West where we have to cross the railroad right-of-way. That is one reason negotiations are taking so long. We're trying to solve multiple issues. The Water Wastewater Division completed the Crockett Well improvement, which added a backup generator, improved piping, installed equipment to stabilize pressures when the well runs, improved site access, and stabilized the hillside above the well house, improving the reliability of our water system. If you pass the Crockett Well House, you will notice the lovely rock exterior of the building. That was made possible by a generous donation from Bruce Bugby and Diana West, who live nearby. They thought the stone building would help it tie in with the historic nature of the neighborhood and offered to make a donation to cover the difference. We acknowledge and appreciate their generosity. In other good water news, Logan City residents responded to calls to use water responsibly and reduce water waste. Although the city is growing and gaining water users, the peak water use this summer was lower than the previous 4 years. We thank those who helped conserve this precious resource. The Water Division also installed a new 12-inch water line in Canyon Road, one of our very old sections of pipe, which will drastically improve water for fire flow situations. The sewer crews kept busy on preventative maintenance of our sewer lines. They videoed over 32 miles of sewer main, cleaned over 37 miles, and worked with a contractor to treat over 5 miles of sewer lines for intrusive roots that cause sewer backups. Believe me, when you're talking sewer backups, prevention is worth every penny spent. Our fleet and shops department keeps all our city vehicles running well and rotate and replace vehicles for cost and service efficiency. The facilities team is replacing some City Hall carpet during this winter season using our multi-talented streets crews when they aren't out snow plowing, and also performed electrical upgrades to various city buildings and painted parts of City Hall, all with city staff, saving the taxpayers money by utilizing existing resources. Our engineering and GIS departments have lots of significant projects in design, and engineering has also provided in-house management for the big projects I mentioned earlier, such as the Library Center Block Plaza and 100 West Bridge. Our Light and Power department has completed 2 new substations to keep up with the growing demand and to continue to provide reliable distribution throughout the city. They rebuilt a section of the Canyon Road transmission line from old wooden poles to the new ductile iron poles, relocated and moved underground 6 blocks of power lines to assist the new 100 West Bridge and roadways, and installed significant new power infrastructure for the Blue Springs FedEx Costco development on 10th West. They have also nearly completed a significant infrastructure upgrade by replacing outdated utility meters for the entire city at a cost of $3.3 million. Almost 18,000 meters have been upgraded, along with the communication system that provides information for billing, including the ability to turn power off and on via computer rather than dispatching a meter technician. This will allow greater efficiencies for personnel. Our biggest concern at the present time for light and power, and really citywide, is the supply of baseload power available to purchase. A number of factors have combined to create a perfect storm in the western United States of decreased baseload power and increased costs for that power. For the past 20 years, power rates have been relatively stable. That is changing dramatically for a number of reasons. First, demand for power has increased significantly with population and business growth. A large increase in electric vehicles, which draw a lot of power to charge, and the switch of many newly constructed housing units to nearly all electric power for furnaces, water heaters, and appliances. The switch to electric vehicles and electric appliances in homes does improve air quality, which is a benefit to all, but it requires more power. Second, our long-term contracts to purchase power have been cut way back. Our clean hydropower from Lake Powell has been cut in half. Our baseload coal resource has also decreased by more than half, as reduced coal deliveries have impacted megawatt output, as has a fire in one of Utah's most productive coal mines, likely meaning permanent closure. When the IPP plant at Delta switches from coal to natural gas in 2025, providing cleaner power, the plant will be downsized, reducing our contracted megawatts by half. We don't love coal power because of the impact on the environment, but we are having a difficult time replacing baseload power. We will be adding 15 megawatts of solar power to our portfolio, but during our summer peak, solar power drops off about the time our peak demand is kicking in, from 5 to 9 p.m., when folks get home from work and turn on air conditioners, appliances, etc. And we still need to have baseload power to back up our renewable energy because it is not available all the time. Both residential and commercial customers have already seen surcharges on their power bills because costs have gone up significantly. Given the law of supply and demand, costs for power will continue to rise for everyone. We believe new, cleaner technology to provide power will likely come online in the next 10 years with nuclear power, improvements in battery storage to increase the reliability of solar power, etc. However, the other challenge for many cities in Utah is the transmission system. Right now, most of the power statewide comes over the Rocky Mountain Power Transmission System. Any new projects are waiting 5 to 6 years to get in line for transmission capacity. In the meantime, we as a city are looking seriously at purchasing and installing natural gas turbines to produce about 10 megawatts of power behind the meter, as they say. It would be adjacent to one of our substations, so we could control when we use it, and it doesn't need to go over transmission lines. Although we can't predict natural gas prices, the turbines would at least be a significant resource which we control as guaranteed baseload power. In our community development department, efforts to streamline government included moving both landlord and business licensing online, better code enforcement tracking and reporting, and with the construction boom of 2022, staff has provided many design reviews, plan reviews, building permits and inspections, special event permits, as well as a number of updates to various standards to keep them current and relevant. These standards are crafted by staff after lots of research, then vetted through the Planning Commission, then reviewed and approved by the Council. That list includes new standards for mixed-use development, accessory dwelling units, short-term rentals, micromobility, otherwise known as e-bikes, scooters, one-wheel devices, etc., and park strip landscaping in an effort to be more water-wise. They also implemented the Public Art Master Plan with projects in 2 different parks. As an added note, we appreciate the 7 citizens who volunteer significant time to serve on the Planning Commission, which meets twice each month, often with long agendas, as well as the folks who serve on various city boards and committees, such as the Parks and Rec Board, Water and Sewer Board, Stormwater Advisory Board, Public Art Committee, Light and Power Advisory Board, RESAB Committee, Audit Committee, Economic Development Committee, Golf Course Advisory Board, and Library Board. Thanks to those who are involved in our city. I mentioned our RESAB board for the Renewable Energy and Sustainability Advisory Board. With their help and encouragement, the city has begun tracking our carbon emissions where possible, so we have good baseline data to measure progress in reducing those emissions. We have added incentives for cleaner HVAC options as customers replace aging furnaces and air conditioners. And we will use some of our renewable energy funds to put solar panels on the new library, as well as pay for other energy-saving measures in that new building. As mentioned earlier, in working with RESAB members and our staff, the Light and Power Department has signed power purchase agreements for projects which will add 15 megawatts of new solar power to our portfolio if all 3 projects come to fruition. We have a grant to explore battery storage and how that could help increase the availability of renewable power to help our peak needs. We continue to improve and add sidewalks and trails that allow for active transportation, making it easier for people to get out of their cars. We've received grants to purchase cleaner vehicles and continue to improve our fleet. We still have a significant recycling program in spite of the volatility of the recycling markets. The city is a big operation, and we couldn't provide all the services to citizens without the 447 full-time employees and the several hundred seasonal and part-time city workers as well. We appreciate our good employees who work throughout the city in rain or snow, hot or cold, during the day or in the middle of the night, or who work in our offices in a variety of roles to make things run smoothly and provide help when it's needed. Our city employees are our most valuable resource, and 2022 brought unprecedented levels of low unemployment to the job market, leading the human resources team to develop creative ways to help retain and attract employees. We implemented different work schedule options, gave significant raises, added 2 paid holidays, adjusted personal leave options, and continued to provide medical benefits without a premium to our employees, in spite of a 7% increase to the city on overall health premiums. HR also runs a wellness program to promote health and well-being among our employees. We want our employees to be safe and healthy, and our legal department handles risk management. With the combined efforts of all city departments and employees, Logan City is currently running 25% below the state average and 35% below the national average on accidents and injuries, which has resulted in significant savings to all insurance lines of the past year, and most importantly, to healthier employees. Our legal department also handles hundreds of contracts and other details every year to support all city departments. We appreciate their work. The city recorder keeps track of thousands of important city documents and will be overseeing a city election this year for 3 city council seats. In summary, when I campaigned for office, my goals were: first, fiscal responsibility; second, revitalize downtown; third, upgrade aging infrastructure and invest in new infrastructure; and fourth, continue to connect and expand our trails and parks, which add so much to our quality of life. I also pledged to make the hard decisions which would put the city in a better position for the long term, even though in the short term they may be difficult. We have done that as well. In the last 5 years, we've had our share of visible and high-impact projects, but sometimes what we do is quiet and behind the scenes. With the support of the council and staff, I'm pleased to report that we, as a team, continue to pursue the big goals and the small improvements, and to make long-term decisions that will promote good governance and move our city forward in the future. Together, we will continue to work hard for the citizens we serve. Thank you for the opportunity to serve in this position. Again, I'm sorry it was so long, but there's so much going on.
Are you taking questions?
I think I've taken enough time. We'll go on with the agenda. Email me your question.
Very good, very good.
Thank you. I was actually thinking about on New Year's Day when I saw all the plows working while everybody was enjoying their time with their families, and I was very thankful for having that service.
Exactly.
Except when I thought the rumble was snowplow, and I fear now it might have been an earthquake, so.
We had a couple of little ones today, is what we're understanding, yeah.
And I'm grateful for power and light for the outage that was repaired quickly.
We are very good at getting those solved and not having them very often and then getting them addressed
They're
quickly.
infrequent. We were having new company come to our house and I was worried, but I knew that it would be fixed within a reasonable time.
Good. So again, thanks to all of you.
Thank you. Next in our agenda, part of our council business, we have an update from the Planning Commission.
They were busy at their meeting in December. They only had one meeting. They had, the Mountain Estates is asking to add 4 building lots to their original project. This is the project that is up east of the university on 14th to 15th North and 12th East. It is a single-family housing development. It has been continued till January 26th because of the need for more engineering data and some talk about the soil stability because of the steep slopes. Raising Cane's, there's been some talk on the internet about us getting a Raising Cane's. Indeed, they are going to build where the Sizzler was. They are taking the building down. And that was conditionally approved. A daycare was conditionally approved. Something called Rivergate was conditionally approved. It is a subdivision that is at 19th West and 600 South. It will be 109 single-family residential building lots. Gary Rick's Service is a design review for office space in the manufacturing area located at 1576 North 600 West in the industrial park zone. That was approved. And last but not least, we have had a request for something that will be called the Campus Academy, which is at 675 East, 400 North in the campus residential zone. It is a permit to create an adolescent residential treatment home for up to 48 girls, I thought it was girls and boys, but suffering from mental illness. That was conditionally approved, but the conditions are substantial and will require some additional work, including probably an elevator and because the access to all of the units is upstairs. It's an existing building with parking underneath and housing on the top. So there's some issues with whether they can actually house 48 people and whether they have enough room for all the things that are required for doing that. But anyway, it is conditionally approved as it stands with the conditions that are attached to it.
And you might just clarify that a residential treatment center has to be allowed in any zone, correct?
Right. Well, the residential treatment center cannot be denied in a particular zone, but conditions can be placed on it to make it suitable and safe for the residents. And that's it.
Thank you. Next up, there has been some changes to the committee assignments, committee and boards. Do we need to review them in public or?
I'd like to make a observation at least, and maybe a suggestion with regard to the Cash Arts. There now will be 3 people on there. No, it's not shown on there. I'm chairman of their facilities committee, and so as a chairman of the committee, I'm also on the board, not legally as the representative of the city, but I'm on there anyway. So we would have 3 people on there, and it might be efficient to maybe change that to 2, give a different assignment. But I'm just on there as per the desire of Wendy and the board over there to continue my work with the facilities.
So you're on it not as a member of the council, just
Right,
as a
right, but I would be-
outstanding and supportive citizen.
Yeah,
The challenge would become that there'd be 3 of us there
3 on the board.
that are also on the council. so.
Right. It just seems like it might be overkill.
So you've always worn 2 hats when you sit in that meeting. One as the city council and then one by virtue of your.
That's correct, yes. I'm not complaining, I'm just bringing it to your attention. And as Jeannie points out, it puts 3 of us in a public meeting. That's not,
I could take on the audit committee if you want and vacate the Casualty Center for the Arts.
that would be good, that would be good.
Because I love audit committee meetings because Rich is so efficient.
And I would-
He's entertaining. He
It's
makes numbers
super fun.
fun.
I think
He makes
Brett-
numbers fun.
I think Brett makes them fun.
He does too. So do you, Jean.
And I don't understand that at all, so.
So I mean, if you wanted to do that as a switch, I would suggest that.
Would you be
That's good.
free to go?
Are you sad to give us the opportunity to do audit?
I really would miss seeing the number games that Richard.
He sends you out all the statements anyway. You get the quarterly.
No, I totally
financials,
trust
you-
Richard.
Rich, do you narrate those like a football game? Is that how you make it?
Pretty much. They're fun. We should all come eventually.
So again, what is the change?
Giving cash arts to Amy?
Taking cash arts from me to town audit.
I would go off audit and go on to cash arts. And Amy would go off cash arts and go to audit. Other than that, I think it's good.
Okay. There were minimal changes. There was pretty much just one committee change for everyone compared to the previous year. That was
Right.
pretty much the change. The new assignments are posted as part of our packet on our website. So if anybody wants to review those, they can for sure go and look them up.
We don't need to vote on that, do we?
We do not need to.
Well, there was an updated one that Teresa sent out, so that is the one that we should be, with the one change, that's the one we should be.
We also added the neighborhood council
Right.
assignments. That wasn't on the list. We thought that would be
Right.
useful to have theirs.
Great. So that one, that will go in the packet online as well?
Correct.
Okay. So I don't think, we don't approve them, we just say, okay, onward and upward.
Because the chair and the mayor get to assign those,
I
right?
know. So onward and upward we go.
All right, well, thank you everyone who are willing to serve on those committees and boards. Next up on our agenda, we have a couple of small changes to our rules and procedures for our municipal council, mainly affecting our meetings and the agenda items in the meetings. So, Craig, would you like me to review the changes, or is that something that
I can summarize them. You can do it either way, whatever you like to do.
I'll let you go ahead and do that?
All right. So these rules and procedures were adopted many years ago. I think we've operated from these for many years. The 2 changes are, one, we got some constructive input from the citizen about the opening ceremonies. Our rules and procedures only identify prayer. We wanted to broaden that just a little bit to include thought, reading, and also prayer is also included in that. The other revision that was made was that our practice, the council's practice has been to have just one council meeting in July and one council meeting in December. Our rules and procedures did not identify or give the council the ability to cancel a council meeting. State code requires the council to have at least one meeting per month, but this addition in addition to a change we'll make in the ordinance later that we'll discuss in the agenda, allows the council to reschedule or cancel a meeting. So those are the two changes that are being proposed.
Any of you like to discuss or comment on these changes?
No. Those are good suggestions, changes.
Do we vote to approve them?
This is an administrative item that doesn't have to be voted on.
Okay.
It can be an informal thumbs up, or you can vote either way.
We do have it on as a workshop item, right?
For the ordinance
ordinance
change, yeah.
Why don't we, all in favor, say aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against, say nay?
Amy's not gonna say a word. She's gonna wait till next week, 2 weeks from now.
All right, thank you, Craig. We'll adopt those changes and we will discuss the workshop item in a little while. All right, next up in our agenda, we have action items. And our first one is a public hearing on resolution 22-49 presented by Rich.
Few items to consider. The first is the largest. It's a request to appropriate 6.877447 of surcharge revenue toward the purchase of power. So the revenue goes up because of the surcharge. The reason for it is buying more power or
More
cost.
expensive power.
Yeah. Now, just so we're all on the same page, this gets us estimated through March, which means we have to come back to council, but we prefer to do it that way, just so we can have a little clearer picture of what's going on as we move forward. Request to appropriate $162,000. These are funds received from a developer for the improvement of a lift station. We're doing part of the work, the developer's doing part of the work. This does happen from time to time. Request to appropriate $8,508 for EMS equipment for fire personnel. It's a state of Utah grant. And lastly, a state grant for $70,440 for replacement of a dump truck. This is part of the targeted airshed grant we received actually last fiscal year. Initially, the state said this piece of equipment wouldn't qualify, so we pulled it out. Well, they've since come back to us and said it will qualify, so we're happy and helps us replace a piece of equipment.
And you said we could come help drill out the.
Yeah, we can help drill a hole
Right,
in
beach.
it.
Do all that fun stuff.
I think I look really good in a hard hat and safety glasses, so.
I think risk management may say up there.
I don't know how you look with a big drill in your hand, however.
Could use a battery powered one pretty well.
It's going to go through a lot of batteries. And that's it.
Any comments, questions from the council?
Not for me.
This is a public hearing. If you would like to comment or ask any questions about it, please come up to the mic, state your name and your place of residence, and keep your comments to under 3 minutes.
They're leaping.
They're leaping. I saw some movement.
Okay, well, don't wait too long.
I'll bring it back to the council.
How move we approve?
I move
resolution
approval of 2249,
Do we have to?
not waiting for,
Public hearing.
Gosh, Tom, I'd already started, but that's
oh, you did.
okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
No.
That's because she's so far away, so you really need to be sitting next to Jeannie.
I know, I need to sit in the middle, yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all right, I'll second.
I apologize.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Say nay. Resolution 22-49 passes. Next up in our action items, we have a public hearing for resolution 22-50 presented by Ross Aquina.
Council last month presented to you a proposal to increase certain fees for service in the Parks and Recreation Department, in the golf course, and in our youth programming. And at that time. You had some questions for me, and our desire was to come back tonight to have this approved. Our hope is to be able to have the resolution passed so that we can put this in effect. I think the effective date for this resolution is tomorrow. That's so that the fees that are proposed, at least for the golf course operation, can go into place for the startup of their season. The other two programs, which are youth programs, they will start up. The girls' fast pitch will start in the summer, and then youth basketball will start in the fall of this year. Any questions?
I raised a question during the workshop about the fees for the large bucket of range balls. The other comparable courses are $10, $8, and $10, and we're at $12. It just seems like that's out of line.
Our bucket's bigger.
Is it?
I think it is, actually.
I'm gonna say it. It's bigger. Our bucket's bigger.
Bucket's a bucket. I mean, I just want to be fair. We've got a lot of seniors, we've got a lot of people with fixed incomes that are there. I mean, this is not I know we're trying to, how do you say, at least break even,
Stop
But,
losing.
but it's not a profit-making organization. We're here to serve the community. We don't want to lose, but we also want to think about that this is a service as well. So I would recommend, and I don't know if you make a motion, but at least see if there's any support for changing that to $10.
So just the large, leaving the small at
Yeah,
6,
'cause-
medium at 6?
Yeah,
I have a feeling that the other golf courses are also going to raise their prices.
well,
So,
but we don't know that.
no, we don't know
We
that.
can always change it too.
I think it's fine at 12 myself.
We could also increase at a slower rate if we wanted.
That's what I'm saying, it just seems,
Other than a 10% increase, maybe a 25%,
yeah.
a quarter or 50 cents.
I know that the other courses do talk to each other. Currently, we're in line with, as you mentioned, with the other courses that are nearby. There's the ones that we also survey when we bring our fees before you. Yes, we could do this at a different time. What helps us also is that as we're looking at developing our fees, we try to keep them in line, not only because it's the start of the season, but we're also trying to keep it in line with our leisure guide. We publish that so many times a year, and we like to keep the information as current as possible. So when we have a change in between publications, it's a little bit more work because we don't want to confuse people. But that's not to take away the concern I think you're raising. We could look at differentiating that through the course of this coming season in that manner, if that's what you choose.
Do we have any idea how much, do you segregate revenue by revenue source? Do we know how much money we
Yeah.
make off of the range? Is it a significant?
It is.
It is
It's a significant
significant.
portion of our revenue. We do have the best range probably in the northern side of including Salt Lake, northern part of
Because
the
you can
state.
actually hit your driver.
You can actually hit driver, and you're hitting off real grass, which is becoming more and more rare. Now, I think that justifies a slightly larger fee maybe than some of the others, but not a lot. And so I think we do have to be careful. I mean, this one, I'm sorry, I did make a mistake. I don't do math in public. That's a 20% increase.
20% increase for the large.
So
Yeah.
maybe we drop that back a little bit if that's something council desires. But the other problem with that is we don't often raise these fees either. We don't do it every year, but maybe that's something we could do for a significant revenue source such as, range fees. Something for the council to be aware of, and I'm always really scared of it as well, it's the Laffer curve. Typically, as you raise fees, the revenue goes up, but there is a point, it's theoretical, at which you raise fees and revenue goes down.
Right.
And that could have something to do with the economy, so I'm always worried about that as well. because that would just mean lesser participation, which is not a good thing.
But also, I mean,
So-
weren't they also interested in trying to maybe do some improvements to the driving range? Which, again, I mean, that would help generate some revenue for.
So can we give a senior pass discount for the buckets, since that's one of Tom's
I'm
concerns?
in,
I
I'm
mean,
in that range now.
we have a senior pass differential. Can it be that, for seniors it stays, I don't know if that's too complicated for your team, Russ.
Seniors don't hit it far enough, so it actually.
Our driving range is the putting green. I would like to see that. I'm thinking, there's a lot of seniors as I, observe.
So do you propose raising it $1? Do you propose not raising it at all? What are you proposing?
Well, I was going to say $1. I'm not $1, but to keep it at the $10, which is in range with others. But per what Richard was saying, if you wanted to go to 10.50 or
So
even 11.
if we get to that 10, does that impede us from doing some of the plans that you guys have?
Well, just to kind of give you some numbers to compare to, in the last 2 years, the revenue was around $155,000 at the current rate that we're at,
Which is,
5 and 10.
That's the 5
which
and
is
10.
5 and 10. Yeah. So if we were to raise that, assuming all things equal, that would take us up about 9.5% on the proposed rate.
And when was the last time you raised those rates?
It's usually every 2 years that we'll look at the driving range.
I mean, if you went up to 11, at least it's,
5,
You
50,
can-
and 11.
Be about
Pardon?
half of that.
Don't do a 50 cents.
yeah, just do it at 11.
Everybody can
Six
pay
and
their credit
11?
card anymore anyway.
Just do 6 and 11.
Yeah.
You raise one $1, you raise another one
Would
$1.
encourage them to get the big bucket. I like it.
Yeah.
So should I make a motion that we approve this with the amendment?
We haven't had a public hearing yet.
Okay, I'll just tell you where I'm heading on this thing.
Okay.
Any other comments before we open it up? This is a public hearing. If you'd like to comment or ask any questions about this item on the agenda, please come up to the mic, state your name.
Dr. Gail Yost. I'm just wondering about the adolescents and if they have to pay the same fees and, or are they part of the rec center and school combination to where they get to use the range and they get to use the golf course through the school district. And the reason I'm asking is golf can be an expensive sport. However, if it's done through school, it can be a very inexpensive school cost that is going to benefit some future college graduates maybe, or some future people who can get a scholarship even if the kids are doing well enough. And I'd like to see that kids who are underserved because they don't have the funds to pay for golf clubs, they don't have the funds to pay for all of the things that they like, would be given a chance to learn to play golf at a reasonable cost or no cost at all. So I'm asking if these fee changes include the teenagers that are learning to play golf.
Are you able to answer that, Russ?
I'll try. So to the question of whether we have, if I'm understanding correctly, fees for the driving range for kids or students, fees that we currently have in place are for everyone, regardless of age. Now, as far as youth go, we do offer 4 different programs at the golf course. Those include a junior program where the kids learn the basics. We also have a program where we'll go into the schools, and then they'll also do some on-site refresher, and that's headed up by the head golf professional. So he'll actually go into the schools with his program, and that is really kind of the ground level understanding and fundamentals of golf. And he does that to encourage kids to participate in the other youth programs that the golf course does. Junior program, they also have a team play program, and then they have a traveling team program. So the hope is that for this golf course, we're trying to encourage kids to understand and have a love for the game, because we want to keep them as customers for life. So there are different programs that are out there for kids to participate in that are a little bit different than the fees that we charge if you were coming to the counter and wanting to play 9 or 18 holes. And so we encourage parents to involve their kids in any one of those 4 programs. And in fact, all 4 of those programs are quite popular.
Does it, are any of those programs designated for underprivileged kids who may not have the wherewithal to pay for those programs, but yet might be very good at the sport?
For all of our programs that charge a fee, now the one where the pro goes into the schools, there is no fee to that. He works with the after-school program to do that. The others, they do charge a fee, but they are not based on a level of not being able to pay. We haven't established a program in the department for that. Probably the closest thing to that is the head pro going into the after-school program to develop interest in kids ages kindergarten to 5th grade, I believe, for the game of golf.
Okay, but there isn't a program at this point to work with underprivileged kids?
Not specifically in the department.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I'll bring it back to the council.
I'll make a motion that we pass Resolution 2250 with the exception of the modification of the fee for the large bucket of balls modified to $11 instead of $12.
Have a motion.
That's a motion.
Do anybody second that motion? Or any
Well,
different motions?
I'll second it to discuss it.
His motion.
I'll second it. Yeah.
So we have a motion and it's been moved and seconded. What else would you like to discuss?
Well, I guess my concern is just if this is a place where we make some significant revenue and we want to do improvements, I guess I'm just a little concerned about the potential reduction of that, if that's part of the plans. But if the rest of the council is comfortable with the $11, I would be comfortable with it. But I think that $12 for a bucket is not that egregious of a fee, so.
But it's, okay, and my point is that it seems to be out of line with the market. It's a 20% jump, and people have gone through some difficult times. You might, for you it may not be, for me it not be, but for a lot of people it is. That's what I'm saying, for the everyday person.
Well, I would say, I echo what Amy said in terms of if indeed part of the reason that we're increasing the fees is to do some major upgrades or do upgrades on the course, which will bring more people there to hit balls and stuff like that. Are we cutting off our nose to spite our face by cutting part of that money out and not allowing them to do the improvements that they had hoped to be able to do with the increased revenue.
I don't know if a business model says that I'm gonna raise my costs 20% so that I can do an improvement. Generally, you build profits and, you know, reputation, and then you use that to do the improvement.
It seems that we have quite the reputation.
You do, but again, is the purpose to make money or is the purpose to serve? I don't know if,
And this won't be a one-to-one relationship, so this increase isn't going to exactly go to this improvement. I don't think we can do it
It's one
for
item.
many years or several years.
Okay.
But just from my perspective, for some of these, where it's going 20%, I would prefer to kind of go 10% over 2 years rather than 20% once. That's just my preference, regardless of whether it's the golf course or the pool or anywhere else. I just prefer a little more gradual. We've encouraged Russ not to come back to council every year to kind of spread that out, so that's my bad. It's just we're in a weird environment where we've had significant inflation, and so it's kind of pressing some of these larger increases that we don't otherwise have. Otherwise, you'd have a 6% increase covering 2 years, and that's not a big deal. Well, this one's 20. So if it helps council, my preference would be maybe for this one a little lower percentage, and then to come back again maybe next season as well, depending on the results.
All right, so it's being moved and seconded to approve the resolution with a change on the large bucket, increase from 12, bring it down to 11, so a change of 10% only. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye. Any against?
did you vote?
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Resolution 22-50 passes with the changes mentioned.
So make sure you don't sign it the way it is.
I'll read the new one.
Next in our agenda, we have a couple of workshop items. First is Resolution 23-01, budget adjustments presented by Richard.
We have several to consider. The first is a little unusual. The rest of them are all reimbursements and grant type things, the normal stuff that we typically bring to you. So a $20,000 request to increase the EMS budget for the purchase of EMS inventory. Specifically, they're trying to buy it's a vending machine, but it's specific for EMS equipment, so that it has to be, it catalogs and checks it out appropriately, safeguards it appropriately. We have some of these. I think they wanted to get one for each of the stations. They were planning to use a credit that we had with this particular vendor to buy this piece of equipment. And that sounded great in their minds. However, in the finance department, large credits we have to resolve at the end of the fiscal year, because if it didn't originate, or if it originated during that fiscal year, we want to tie up that fiscal year at the end to show that we didn't, we don't have this large credit running through our accounts payable. It mistakes our financial statements. So the finance department appropriately got rid of the credit. The finance department, or sorry, the fire department was appropriately planning to use that credit. Well, when the equipment arrived, and I'm sorry that it's arrived, that credit was no longer there. So the good news is, when that credit at the end of the year simply went to the reserves. That's how it was recorded in the finance department. So we're just asking, can we now pull that back out and use it for the purpose which the fire department intended to use it originally, which was to get this piece of equipment.
I think it sounds like something for the audit committee.
That sounds like a serious discussion.
I'm glad you're honest.
Good news is we've accounted for it appropriately. They were planning on it appropriately. It needs to be appropriately appropriated.
That's a very appropriate.
There's a lot of appropriateness. Okay. So that's the first item. The second item is request to appropriate $14,179 for police body cameras. This is a state grant Request to appropriate $151,800 for the public safety, first responder, mental health support. That's a grant the Mayor talked about in her state of the city. The request to appropriate $145,001 from the state of Utah. From the state of Utah for the Willow Park Sports Complex. Anytime the grant has pennies involved, we round up, so that's why it's $145,001. Next, request to appropriate $53,433 for the Cache County Trails pedestrian crossing at 14th North. And a request to appropriate $3,318 for U.S. Department of Justice cases worked by the police department. A request to appropriate $21,418 for overtime shifts worked by the police department. And lastly, but not leastly, a request to appropriate $185,525 for wildland fire reimbursements. That should complete the last fire season. So we should be all tied up, and we'll look forward to the next one. With all of this water we've received, I'm sure that the plants will grow really big, and there'll be a terribly difficult fire season.
There's some additional ones here though in the resolution,
They're all tied to the 185.
except that it's 168, 575, 25, and 25, which seems like that's more than 185.
So what you do is, that's all part of the one resolution. If you take the 160 and then the 25, it adds up to the 185. So it's just, the reason we have to split it up
Gotcha.
is
Okay.
because now we have EMS separated from fire. And some of these EMS people also qualify to work on fire-related activities, so they're getting reimbursed, which is a good thing. We just have to account for it separately.
No questions from me.
Questions? Tom, any questions? Thank you, Rich. Our next workshop item is Ordinance 23-01, presented by, well, we've discussed it, the changes to the ordinance about our Logan Municipal Code for our meetings. Is there anything else you would like to add to this?
No, the council changed the rules and procedures, and it might be appropriate to change the ordinance. Did I do that right? Okay. Change the
It
ordinance as
might
well.
be appropriate, just might.
The appropriate use of that term.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate.
Makes sense to me.
So any other questions? Yeah.
Section 202-390, okay.
Any comments? Any other questions about the change?
I think this improves the peace and good order.
Yes, I believe.
You made it through the first meeting.
He hasn't finished yet.
All
You still
right.
have something to
Any
do.
other considerations?
We can bring up something.
What should we do?
No, we'll think
I
of
move we
something.
adjourn.
All right. Well, this meeting is adjourned.
Excellent.
Thank you.
I think we are all proud.
Grandson's birthday. So, give him a present.
Thanks for letting me stay on. See you.
It needed great. Thanks, Mary Alice.